Hello, movie friends. Welcome back to the show. This is Anthony.
And this is James, and we're going to do Scream. We just saw this last night in theaters, opening night on Thursday. And, we're going to open up spoiler-free. We'll do a spoiler-free review, but then we'll get into spoilers and stuff like that about halfway through. We'll give you a warning.
Yeah, and this film, it seems like it was made and designed for, super fans of the Scream franchise. Not just the original, because I think everybody universally loves the original Scream movie. It's one of my favorite horror films. But we've said it on the podcast. We're not big fans of the sequels, and a couple of the sequels.
I like the second one.
Yeah, but a few of them are just not very good at all. So, but I think that this movie was really specifically made for people who really love the entire franchise. It seemed like.
Yeah, I guess, and it just I rarely tell people not to see a movie in theaters, but I would recommend staying home and watching the original Scream, because I was pretty disappointed. We've been saying by watching the trailer that our expectations weren't going to be that high. It looks like it could be not that great, And then the reviews came out when the embargo got lifted Thursday morning, and it was 77% Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, oh, wait, hold the phone, Anthony. I'm actually excited to go check this out now. We had the tickets the night before. I'm like, let's go. I'm excited I'm even more excited for Scream. Can't wait. It's my favorite slasher film of all time.
Yeah, I don't think any of the sequels have fresh ratings.
And within 15 minutes, me and Anthony, I nudged Anthony in the shoulder. I'm like, this is really bad. This is really bad.
There were a couple of times where we looked at each other and we were cracking up because it delivers what you want in a Scream movie in terms of it has some really great gore, some really cool, brutal, gnarly kills. Obviously, the mystery of who the killer is within the friend group, and in a bit of a meta-esque approach, just like all of the other Screams. But for this one, just like a few of the other sequels, I think that it just was not. It didn't work on the page.
Yeah, so it was directed by Matt Bettinelli, Olpin, and Tyler Gillette, who made Ready or Not, which is an awesome horror film that came out in 2019. Is that Blumhouse or is it A24? I can't remember.
Blumhouse.
So that movie I liked a lot. So I was honestly surprised the directing's fine in this movie, but the screenplay is the weakness of this Scream movie. It was written by James Vanderbilt, Guy Busick, and Kevin Williamson, who created the characters. And the directing's fine. The young cast is just they were okay. I think the girl who plays the lead, she's the girl in the opening.
Jenna Ortega.
She was really great. I think she was the best actor in the entire thing.
She's the best actor of the entire film by far.
Better than the older actors and the legacy characters. And so she was terrific. But I think the rest of the young cast, maybe one or two, were solid. But a lot of them, I didn't see them having the acting chops in this film.
Yeah, and a couple of them, they just lacked really emoting. Like when you have scenes, when they're sharing scenes with not just Jenna Ortega, who plays the younger sister, but the older characters like Sydney and Courtney Cox. They're not the most amazing actors ever, Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox, but they're very good actors. They never won awards or anything, but they always get the job done. But when you see these veteran actors in scenes with the younger actors, you can really see the veterans can really emote and can really perform well. And these younger castmates, they seemed very dead-eyed. They didn't seem very emotive in terms of their acting prowess and capabilities. And that doesn't mean that young actors aren't good. There are so many great young actors. I think that this younger cast just wasn't there for me for the performance-wise.
I also think that, the script was, you can only do so much with a pretty bad script and pretty bad dialogue. We talk about it all the time. When we did the Star Wars trilogy, the prequels, Revenge of the Sith is a great movie, but that dialogue can be so hard to get through sometimes. Watching Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, Natalie's one of the greatest actresses of all time, and even her reading that dialogue, you're like, oh, this is cringe, pretty cringe. So a lot of the dialogue in this new Scream movie, I felt like I was watching a soap opera. Mm-hmm. It was pretty cringe, and it seemed like they didn't really care, in terms of the script. They're just we need to just make a new Scream movie. And when you brought up the meta thing, that's one of the funnest parts about Scream is the meta quality of it and how they're always playing with the fact that it's horror movie rules in this real life situation, that it's it's like a horror movie. But this movie, obviously, like all the other Scream movies, is very meta as well. But it's too meta, and I think it's meta to a fault. It's the over the top with the meta references, and it's such a carbon copy of the first one, which they think that it's meta because it's the exact same storyline kind of in plot. We're going back to Wardsboro, back to the same houses and everything, bringing the legacy characters back, but it's overwhelming with the meta.
And it was just way too over the top. You have a character like Jamie Kennedy's niece is just like him, like the exact same
Same
character,
clothing and same color
clothing,
outfits and stuff.
same scenes, and oftentimes with a few of the other characters, it was just so resembling the original Scream. And I understand that's what their approach was, but it just didn't. I don't think it worked.
And
at
they're
all.
even talking about it. Obviously, it's just like when Randy gives the rules in Scream.
But that's really fun.
That's great. That's one of the best. That's why I wish they never killed Randy off, because Randy was maybe my favorite character.
His presence is still felt in this movie.
Exactly.
Like when they show photos of him, and there's like a mantelpiece dedicated to him. It's like, well, he was the best character in this entire series.
Yeah, we're not spoiling anything. This stuff's in the trailers. Like everyone knows. Like all you have to do is look up the names of the characters, and you know the relation between them. And so I figure maybe get into spoiler territory now.
Sure.
So yeah, we're like 5-6 minutes in. So if you haven't seen Scream yet and you don't want to hear spoilers, my review, I probably give this like 3 out of 10, honestly, which is too bad because I adore Scream so much, and I had high hopes for this going in, and I was just really let down.
Yeah, but I think that if you're a super fan, like a super fan of the entire franchise, you'll like this movie.
Yeah.
But for us, it just wasn't there.
Yeah, and personally, it wasn't very scary. You know, I love going into movies to be terrified at the theater.
Yeah, you're a squirmer. You're a seat squirmer.
I do squirm. I cover my mouth. I'm terrified all the time when I watch horror movies in theaters. I didn't get scared once, honestly.
Yeah, and the jump scares were they didn't work, and it was just, there were so many of them, more than ever.
And you knew where they were coming.
Yeah,
It's so predictable.
And it was very meta where they were like, they were setting up like a possible jump scare with like a door opening or a cabinet opening. And it was funny the first couple of times, but they did it like 10 times where like a person would open a fridge door and the music builds up and then they close the door and no one's there. It happened repeatedly, and it got to the point where it was like, okay, we get it. And then there was also like 5 or 6 times where in the background there was set design that made it look like it could have been Ghostface there, like whether it be like a jacket with like a little white hat on top of it that kind of looked like the shape of Ghostface. You saw many of those in the film, and it got to the point where it's like, okay, we know you're making fun of the jump scares and, you know, the Ghostface just popping up, but like this is getting a little too much.
All right, let's head into spoiler territory officially now. So if you haven't seen it, this is your warning. Ghostface's presence in this movie is so underwhelming. You know, that's the best part of the Scream franchise is Ghostface. And I never felt Ghostface was a threat at all in this movie, really. It's because Ghostface, we've made fun of how he's so bad at killing people, the first swipe and the first stab. But every time Ghostface attacked any character in this movie, they immediately blocked his knife with their hands on the forearm. It's like, it's really unrealistic to like, if someone's going to come for a stabbing motion onto you, most people are not going to be able to have self-defense awareness to be able to block a fast knife coming at you like that. Like every single character who gets attacked blocks the first knife stab with both their hands, and every character with their first fight with Ghostface, it's like the holding the knife against their face, like, oh, I can beat you to it. Every attack.
It was way too many times.
Not even kidding. Every attack.
The attacks were very underwhelming. There were a couple good deaths, but I mean, ultimately, they never really captured that fear of like, you know, the Wes Craven kills in the first one, they're grisly and they can be really terrifying. Like the Drew Barrymore kill, it's still one of the best movie deaths of all time, and it's so terrifying. I think Wes Craven was just a master at building suspense and portraying a scene like that, where I think these filmmakers, even though they can be talented, they don't have the prowess of directing that he had.
I do like how they, you know, brought in references to modern horror films. They brought up like It Follows, Hereditary, The Babadook, which they didn't pronounce twice in the film. I know we pronounce names a lot, but like it's pronounced The Babadook. So and they give it a lot of praise in the film, but it's like you might want to check the pronunciation on it before you start praising it so much. Jordan Peele got a shout out. So I like how they, you know, it's a new fresh take, I guess, on Scream is what they're calling it, even though it's meta. Like, they're making fun of it at the same time, but it doesn't work very well. But I like how they paid homage to new films.
But the thing with that, they kept saying it was like this new thing called elevated horror on top of slasher, but like elevated horror happened before slasher.
Yeah.
You know, things like Rosemary's Baby, those kinds of horror films like Diabolique and, you know, Psycho. These were
Suspiria even.
Suspiria, elevated horror happened before the slasher
for
films.
decades.
Yeah.
So they're making it seem like elevated horror never existed.
Exactly.
And every horror movie before 2018 was just Psycho with knives stabbing people.
Yeah.
There's always horror films like that, and that was kind of silly.
Yeah. That definitely took me out of it. I was like, what's this character talking about? There's been so many great non-slasher horror movies. The best ones are non-slashers sometimes.
Again, Ortega was so great in the opening. She's the best actress overall. She could cry on command and easily. But I think this movie spent too much time in hospitals. Like, it's kind of like Halloween Kills. Half
you're
the
right.
movie is in a hospital room, in a hospital bed. I'm like, can we leave the goddamn hospital?
And there's so many things that were just implausible. Like, it's like a bunch of high schoolers playing pool at a bar, at a dive bar.
Like a real bar.
Yeah, and then like and they're like pouring whiskey into their own drinks, and like no one's noticing. And then one of the characters' his mom gets killed outside in the yard, and it takes like
broad daylight.
Yeah, broad daylight. It takes an hour for him to see it. And like this lady's like bloodied on her front lawn in a neighborhood. No one drove by and saw a dead body on the ground for like at least an hour because she's killed while he's in the shower.
Well, it's not like an hour, but it's several minutes.
He gets changed and his hair's dry.
And he sets the table.
It's like nobody walked past or drove past this lady on the ground dead. Are you kidding me?
Overall, I don't think Wes Anderson would have really enjoyed this film. I think like they paid homage to him, saying for Wes and everything like that. And they even named a character off after Wes Craven. So Wes is the kid who's kind of like the mama's boy, you could say, because he has his hair dyed blonde. You can assume to probably because he looks up to his mother so much subconsciously, maybe doesn't realize it. I think that's why his hair's blonde in the film, and he dyes it. And he was actually a pretty interesting character. He reminded me a lot of like Randy in the first film, where he's like the most innocent one. Like, he can't get a girl. They make fun of him a lot. He's kind of like a loner, you could say. And then they kill him off.
He's also, I think, the most famous actor.
They name a character after Wes Craven and they kill him off. It's kind of a shitty way to homage it.
Yeah, especially because the scene right before he dies, they made it seem like he was a prime suspect.
Yeah.
And so they eliminated him as a suspect immediately. And also, like, a part of the Scream tradition is you need to have the mystery about who the killer is, but I think that, like, they spent so much time, like, oh, you're the killer, you're the killer, you're the killer.
Like a whodunit.
Yeah, and it was like they spent more time, like, accusing each other than actually, like, having a story unfold that was interesting or, you know, engrossing at all. And also, like, back to the implausibility of it all, like, there's a scene when Jenna Ortega's character, Tara, Sam's sister, is alone in the hospital, and then Sam and her boyfriend are driving to Sam and Dewey are driving to the hospital to save her because they know Ghostface is after her. And this hospital, it's a big hospital, but for some reason nobody is there at all. I think it's because Tara's alone.
I think it's because, remember, they said if you want, we can get you a private floor.
Private floor?
Yeah, they say that in the film. I think that's why they can empty it out.
But that doesn't. I mean, they keep so that happens. Why would you want to be in a private area if there's a killer after you? And then also they go to the party and kick everyone out of the party. You think that a crowded room would be the safest place? If there's a killer after you, surround yourself with 20 people, and the killer's not going to try and kill you in front of all these people.
Well, the person who kicks the people out is
I know, but I'm just talking about the other characters going along with it. No problem.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It got a little silly. I mean, all the Scream movies are like this except for the first one. There are parts to nitpick, but I think, this is, for me, I'd put it number 3 or 4 on the list of Scream films. And the number one thing I think that bugged me the most is all the characters in this film. Literally, all the main characters either get stabbed horribly in the stomach or shot in the stomach. Somehow, they can all stand up and walk around and fight, and they have no issues with it at all. And I was just like Sam gets stabbed, and then he twists the knife in her. You're dead. Yeah. Like, you're gonna bleed out probably.
And he just destroyed your obliques, so you shouldn't be able to stand up.
Like, I can't even stand up when I have like a stomach pain, and I'm like, let alone you get stabbed and the knife gets twisted for several seconds. Like, and then Gail gets shot in the stomach. And
keep in mind, this is a 7-inch knife.
It's huge.
It's gigantic.
And then Gail gets shot in the stomach, and she's running around like no problem. Sydney gets stabbed and twisted in the stomach. She's running around fighting no problem. Everyone gets stabbed in the stomach, and it's like a bruise. I'm like, how is no one on the ground screaming and writhing in pain?
The only person who reacted naturally and believably to their injury was the football jock who got stabbed in the leg, and then he was limping, running away from Ghostface. That was the only realistic injury in the movie.
I think the screenwriters and filmmakers should interview someone who's been stabbed in the stomach to see what it's really like, because I'm assuming it's pretty hard to walk and stand up straight, because it happens here and there in the Scream franchise, but at least the characters even like when Stu gets stabbed in the first one, he's like, "Oh, Phil, who is he? He can't even stand up." That's pretty accurate.
Sydney, at the climax of Scream 1, Sydney is like, she gets the job done, but she's hurt.
Yeah.
You know, she's limping the whole time, and you can tell she's in pain and barely getting by.
Oh, wait, actually, my biggest con with this movie. All right, ready? Sorry, that's my alarm to call my mother because it's called Mom Day.
Hey, Ma.
So my biggest con with the Scream movie was, so the villain obviously is going to be the two friends. So it's Sam's boyfriend, and then I can't remember the other girl's name. Amber. And then, but also Sam is, obviously they have to relate it somehow to Woodsboro in the original Killers. Sam is the bastard daughter of Billy Loomis, because apparently when Billy Loomis was dating Sydney, he was also sleeping with somebody else, and she got pregnant, and then Sam read her parents' diaries when she was 13 and found out that Billy Loomis was the actual father. I guess that's a way to connect it. It kind of doesn't make any sense, because
opera.
I always assumed that Billy was a virgin, just like Sydney, even though they never said it.
No, I didn't assume that he was a virgin. I just assumed that he was obsessed with sleeping with her to make her not a virgin anymore.
Kill her, yeah. So okay, maybe Billy's not a virgin. Like I said, they never say it.
He's so thirsty he can't be a virgin.
Yeah, you're probably right. But also a thirsty boy, like a teenage boy. I'm sure everyone knows it's an issue. So she's the son.
Oh, we got a light down.
She's the son of Billy Loomis. Sorry, I'm knocking things over on the set. So she's the daughter of Billy Loomis that Billy never knew he had before he died. And then she's worried. Sam leaves town. She abandons her sister because when she finds out
this is in the past.
She's worried that she's going to become a serial killer like Billy Loomis, and then she sees the ghost of Billy Loomis everywhere, like the bloodied version of Billy Loomis, who she's never met.
Yeah.
She probably has only seen a photo of Billy Loomis, but she sees Billy Loomis everywhere, and she's worried that she's going to become a serial killer like Billy Loomis. Serial killers are not born. They are made and shaped. Billy Loomis became a serial killer because of what happened to him in his life, not because he was born a serial killer. That's why he became the serial killer, is because Sydney's mother sleeping with his father and leaving his family made him become a serial killer.
Yeah, serial killer is not a gene.
I was watching him
down.
I'm like, he's not a genetic serial killer. It's because of what happened to him. That's why he became a serial killer.
Serial killers are shaped by their environment. What is it, like 99% of the time it's sexual abuse as children.
Something like that. And obviously he was probably a bad seed anyways to begin with, but still, he wasn't a genetic serial killer, which makes no sense for Sam seeing a ghost of Billy Loomis and worried that she's going to be a genetic serial killer, and then she has this secret serial killer superpower inside of her, and he's just egging her on to use it. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and it's just when you have a character deliver a monologue saying that I tried every drug imaginable, I left everything, and I was like, oh my god, is this Days of Our Lives over here?
The dialogue was pretty cheese.
But so my biggest con with the film is the accuracy of Ghostface, depending on which killer it was when Ghostface was attacking people. So you have Amber, and you have Jack Quaid's character. I can't remember his name.
The boyfriend of Sam.
The boyfriend. And now, so Ghostface, it should, so with the last Scream, you could tell on second watchings which Ghostface was Emma Roberts, because she's a petite girl, so you can tell, oh, that's definitely got to be the Emma Roberts Ghostface as opposed to the guy who's much larger than her. But in this film, all of the Ghostface scenes, every time Ghostface attacks someone, he's 6'2". Most notably, Dewey's death. Dewey finally dies in this film. And the way Ghostface kills him is, first Ghostface gets shot 3 times in the chest, but they're wearing a bulletproof vest. And then Ghostface stabs Dewey in the back and in the stomach, and then lifts him up with the knives, tearing through his body. When you see that scene, then you whispered to me, oh, it's got to be the jock twin, because the guy's tall and strong and fit to be able to lift up a guy who weighs at least 210 pounds in Dewey. Okay, this Ghostface is very physically strong, like the strongest one we've seen so far ever in a Scream movie. And then at the end, it's revealed that was Amber. That really takes me out of come on, you're not even trying to fool us.
And the overly meta aspect of it, they're constantly playing with it. They're constantly throwing it in your face, which, again, it's overwhelming, and especially at the end where these two kids who are going to do the same exact murder. The movie is the same exact plot, basically, as the first one almost, and then kind of mixed with the second one, or the third one, where they want to make a movie.
Yeah.
they didn't learn from the mistakes that the same things happen, like someone escapes the closet.
They're
and
excited as each step is happening, but then they're like,
Didn't you? I thought you were obsessed with the stab movies.
all these
and
things went wrong for the characters.
You should know that you shouldn't be trying to stage the bodies like this. Just shoot everybody in the head and just run away. Like if that's what you really want to do, because they say they're giving the movie more new source material, but it's the same exact story.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Scream. And I know they're trying to play with it in a meta aspect, but it just doesn't work for me.
And I know what they're doing. I understand they're trying to be like, oh, this is what the soft reboots are doing in Hollywood.
The requels.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. But, you know, at least Star Wars The Force Awakens was still very entertaining.
But the way they're doing it's like, yeah, Hollywood's doing it and we're doing it too, but it's funny because we're acknowledging it, but you're still doing it and it's not working.
Yeah, whereas like Force Awakens, which is what they were alluding to more than anything, talking about the legacy characters coming back. I mean, obviously, Force Awakens is just a carbon copy of A New Hope, but still, it was a fun time. And it was entertaining, had great
new things,
great action, fun new characters. Like, they brought a lot of new things to it while still basically copying the original. Whereas this Scream, I know they're like, oh, we're doing it too, but like it's not entertaining and it wasn't fun at all.
Yeah, I wasn't scared. It was kind of funny. There were some funny lines here and there, but there were a lot of jokes that missed for me. And you know, I just was really let down. I really was.
I wasn't that let down because I didn't have high expectations.
I had high expectations, and I love Scream, man. I love Scream. So I was pretty let down.
Yeah, but I mean, this is just our opinion. I'm sure if you're a super fan of Scream, you're gonna like this movie a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it has all the elements of the Scream movie. So like, if you want to watch, it's basically a remake of Scream, the first one.
Yeah,
which is why I think they didn't call it Scream 5.
Yeah, it's a requel. They said.
Man. Anyways. That was Scream. I don't think.
So far, we have Matrix Resurrections and now Scream 5, and then oh man, hopefully there's no more requels coming out this year.
I can't do the requels, man. I can't do them anymore.
Yeah,
that's a good name, requel.
Yeah. Well, I think soft reboot is more accurate.
Yeah. Laura. Well, I mean.
But I would give the MVP of this movie to Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
She was the standout by far.
The girl who played Randy's niece was also really good too.
Yeah.
She was really funny.
Everyone else was like,
I think she had like the most confidence and charisma on camera.
She's very
for
funny.
Sure. Yeah. Overall, you know, I said 3 stabs out of 10 stabs for me. What do you give it out of 10?
I give it 3.5 stabs.
So you have to use it 3.5 stabs.
3 stabs and a twist,
which you can easily walk from afterwards. Apparently. Watching Scream.
You can leave the theater no problem after a stab twist in your throat.
Everyone gets stabbed in the stomach and it's totally fine. Totally fine, apparently. My God. That should be like, people are like not going to get afraid to get stabbed anymore. It's like, they seem okay.
Yeah.
They just wrapped it with bandages. It's fine. It's fine. She's gonna be fine. Literally, they wrap it with an ace bandage.
Yeah, she's like
good.
She's walking around the crime scene like no problem.
Don't worry, man. I would
give everyone high fives.
How is she conscious? How is anyone conscious in this movie? It's like when you watch Mad Men and they all drink like whiskey at 11 a.m. How is the next scene like not everyone?
How
dead?
are they not shit faced?
Have you ever day drank at like noon?
Yeah.
I'm dead at 3.
Yeah,
dead.
It wipes you out.
Let alone getting stabbed in the stomach, where I would literally be dead. Anyways.
We recommend you watch the original.
The original is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can't stop Hollywood from doing this stuff, so can't wait for Scream 6 or 2.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to
be.
be.
We couldn't be nice. We had to be honest.
Yeah.
We got to give you our honest opinions.
All right, everybody, take care. Thanks so much for tuning into this mini review of Scream.
Hello, Sydney.
Hello, Sydney. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.